Down at the bottom of the 2D platformer barrel is Arsonist Heaven, a game that I picked up on PlayStation 5 because it had a jetpack and a flamethrower. I mean, what's not to love? Sadly, my dreams of expectations were sadly missed, and the reality of playing this game is not as fun as what that sounds. And it's down to a few crucial key decisions in the gameplay mechanics that really limit and restrict what you can and can't do. In this game, you play as a hazmat-wearing person running around with your jetpack and flamethrower. You have to get into each level and kill every single enemy before it allows you to continue on. And so there's a little bit of platforming, very light platforming, wandering around trying to see where all of the different enemies are. This game is full of those cheap death traps where you think you're diving down somewhere but actually it's just death, and then in other areas it's not death. So I really didn't like that level design. And I also didn't like the fact that enemies don't seem to react to anything that you do either, and they just charge at you like broken zombies, which is a bit odd when you're trying to torch them to death with flamethrowing. The flamethrowing and the jetpack, though, is really where this game's unique selling point is being lauded about, but sadly that's where you have the most restrictions and constrictions. And that's because both of these items are heavily tied to a very skinny and stingy fuel gauge. And so whilst you can do a jump and then get into jetpack mode to try and fling yourself up the level to clear things faster, you burn through that fuel so quickly that it almost becomes pointless to use outside of trying to get to the must need to land on platforms in levels. It's not really got much use outside of that. The same problem applies to flamethrowing too, because although there's lots of enemies around, there's not much ammo for you to pick up. Same for fuel for the jetpack. And so you have to be really stingy with your usage of it. And whilst that could have been a nice selling point to make you think tactically about what you're doing, the enemies are all just dumb. So it doesn't feel like you're being engaged at the right level for what it's trying to do. And so I didn't feel powerful wandering around with big flamethrowers. I just felt like I had to keep pressing the button very shortly to just do like little singes and then not be able to feel like I was fully utilising all of the tools available to me. Boss fights I also found quite frustrating too. They're full of cheap moves where they're able to stun you very quickly and make you lose some of your health. And so some of the tactics in Arsonist Heaven is basically keeping all of your health in the standard levels so that you can just be spanked repeatedly in the boss levels, but then just stand in front of them and kill them with your flamethrower with what you've got left. And that feels really unbalanced. Would I recommend this game? Not really. It's one of those cheap platinum games that's also quite frustrating to play. And so you get the worst of both worlds when you're trying to do that. And whilst I do think that having a jetpack and a flamethrower is a good idea for other games to maybe take note of and implement better, this one is sadly a miss for me.